Hey everyone, it's Joshua from the Parent ProTech team, and I'm so excited for this conversation we have coming up. We're talking with Joshua Webb from Crime Stoppers of Houston. He's the Safe Community Institute manager. So welcome, Joshua.
Hello, Joshua. Very happy to be here. I'm just excited about all the things that you all do with Parent ProTech. I think this is a great opportunity for our community here in Houston to just become more educated, more equipped, and more prepared. So, very happy to be here.
And this is a series, so we're kicking it off and answering some of the top questions. I know Crime Stoppers does such great work in Houston and Harris County, and you get a lot of questions, you hear a lot of stories, and you deal with everything from prevention to victims. And so we wanted to kind of use these conversations as we hear so much about tech. We want to bring your expertise along with ours to answer some of the top questions we get. Now, could you let us into what all does the Safe Community Institute include? What all are you working with at Crime Stoppers of Houston?
I'll start kind of broadly with Crime Stoppers in general. Our mission
Yeah.
being solving and preventing crime. So we solve crime with our anonymous tip line for anybody, no matter how old you are, what part of the city that you're in, to report any kind of illegal crime, suspicious activity, even the location of a wanted fugitive. But it's really the crime prevention part that we are incredibly focused on, particularly through our Safe Community Institute, making sure that we are having conversations with parents and families about all of the things that exist, whether it is human trafficking, whether it is social media, whether it's the intersection of those two things, right? We are seeing social media and the internet being used for some
Yeah.
really dangerous and nefarious things. And so making sure that we are letting parents know all of the things that, number one, they are vulnerable to, but also some of the tips that they can use to help keep themselves and their family safe.
We're going to use this as a space to have some of those uncomfortable conversations, but necessary conversations. Let's start with AI. It's this topic we hear about so much. And even more recently, with some of the schools and families that we work with at Parent ProTech, we've heard stories of how in schools across the nation, many teens are using these undressing or nudifying apps that they use AI models to take clothed images of people and make turn them into nudes. And even the New York Times has called this an epidemic of deepfake nudes. The challenge is that the law is slower to keep up with all this tech that's rapidly developing.
I think you're exactly right. And we see this happen all the time. You know, as tech advances, the laws kind of lag behind it. And so you have this time where children, even adults, are being victimized by, random strangers online, and there's not much that can be done. Here in
Hmm.
Texas, we actually do have a law specifically against deepfakes. These deepfake nudes that are, as you said, being created from completely innocent clothed pictures.
Yeah.
In terms of federal legislation, there's not as much support there. I think recently there have been lots of high profile cases. You know, you saw the case of Taylor Swift not too long ago, where incredibly explicit and I think crucially non-consensual images were being shared of her online on social media. And I think that just speaks to the access of these undressing, these nudifying apps, and also the ease of use, right? A lot of these apps are free or low cost. And so you have kids, teens, adults using them. And like we said, laws not necessarily there to protect them. And so while there may not be any kind of federal legislation on the books, there are, though, ways to address it from other laws. So, for example, there may be laws against sharing somebody's personal private information without their consent, right? That may help
Yeah.
address somebody posting non-consensually shared AI modified nude images of someone. But in terms of an actual law against deep fakes, there's not much that exists at a federal level.
And I think the challenge that you illustrate and that we're talking about is without these laws being fully there to cover all of this, it really emphasizes the importance of all of us thinking twice before we share, being strategic with what we share online. But these things still happen, and the technology is rapidly advancing where even if you never take a sexually explicit photo of yourself, you can have one created. So is there any inside advice, any advice that you would give to victims or guidance? Because I know you do a lot of work with those who have been affected
Yeah.
by certain crimes. Any insight there?
My first step is always prevention, right? If there
Yeah.
is anything that we can do to stop our personal information from being out there, right, doing that. Now, posting on social media, that doesn't give us much of an option, right? As soon as we post something on Instagram or Facebook, it's out there in the world, right? But making sure that we are intentional and cautious about what we post. But again, now that if we are ever in a situation where we are being harassed or there is an artificial image or video of us circulating, there are ways to get that taken down. There's a service run by the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, NCMEC. They have their service actually called Take It Down, which works with these
Yeah.
different social media profiles to remove these non-consensually shared sexual images. There's another service called stopncii.org, which does a very similar thing. So there are avenues for victims who have their private material, real or not, posted online. Again, it starts with the prevention, but there are other resources that exist to help people kind of navigate a very scary, a very difficult situation.
And I'm glad you highlighted that because I think so many students, when they find themselves in these positions, maybe they've had an image created or shared an image and then later wish they could take it back. I think so many find themselves, they're like, oh, my reputation is ruined. There's no going back. There's nothing I can do. And the reality is, once you share something, it is out there. But like you're highlighting, there are tools, there are resources that can help.
The fear and the shame and the embarrassment that can come with that is oftentimes what stops kids and teens from speaking, even adults from speaking out if something is happening to them. So if we can encourage young people, hey, yes, you made a mistake, you sent something that you shouldn't have, but it's not the end of the world. It might feel like it, and it sure does feel like it in that moment, but helping them to connect to other adults, other resources that can help them through that situation.
We could address those who might be looking at some of these AI tools. I think a lot of the stories we've heard are of teen boys. They're developing, they got a lot of testosterone, and they see these tools and they think, oh, what's the damage?
Right.
And this is what we're highlighting. Any word to that group of people?
And particularly teenage boys. Yeah, man.
Yeah,
Because we were both those at one point in our lives.
yeah,
We
yeah.
know the pressures and the curiosities, but I think, part of it is making sure that there are role models in these kids' lives, right? That there
Mm,
are adults that they can look to who can help them navigate those situations, but also encouraging and instilling a sense of willpower and right and wrong, right? You may have the curiosity, even the access to these tools, but knowing that if I go and create this image of my friend, my classmate, my neighbor, a complete stranger, not only is that a violation of their privacy, but there are some very, very serious legal consequences that come with that, especially if you have a student that is creating these kind of sexual material of their classmates who, if they are teenagers, right, that is child pornography, right? So
yeah.
there may be the misconception that, oh, it's not a real image, and so I'm not actually harming this person. But no, like if you are creating intimate imagery of somebody without their permission and posting that online, that's a common thing that we're seeing, and that's a thing that we have to address and put an end to.
And I think as prosecutors, as laws catch up, there will be many who I don't want to say will be made examples, but um, there's serious consequences for this, and that's what you're highlighting.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, thank you, Joshua. This is part one, more to come. But seriously, we appreciate your time and insight, and looking forward to what's in the future with this.
Yeah, Joshua, as you said, this is a crucial conversation to have, and I'm excited that we are actually doing an entire series on this, not just a one stop. So if you're interested, we look forward to you all joining us on our upcoming videos.